Yeah, I'm very excited about Bella. You know, I've been very involved in her life the last 4 years. So, yeah, it's gonna be fun.
After her UFC BJJ, she said that she wants to be the first UFC fighter to fight for you guys and fight and compete in the Olympics in 2028.
The Olympics, UFC Championship, Zuffa Boxing, and UFC BJJ. She wants a title in all of those organizations.
Is that something that you allow?
Yeah, we've talked about it. I mean, she presented that to me, and you know, I've been talking about her career with her for 4 years.
Dana White breaks his silence on Bella Mir and calls her the biggest threat to Dakota Ditcheva. She's the daughter of a UFC heavyweight champion. She was the first NIL athlete the UFC ever signed. And now, just days before she headlines Dana White's Contender Series, the UFC CEO himself is speaking out about her.
Just go flat. Don't squeeze. Just stay there. Don't squeeze. Don't squeeze. Stay there. Stay there. Don't squeeze. Yes.
Bella Lady Mir is undefeated. She's an NCAA wrestling champion. She's an IBJJF World Champion. And on August 25th, 2026, she steps into the Apex to fight for a UFC contract with her father's legacy and her own name on the line.
I'm feeling great. Love to start off my debut with UFC BJJ and love to keep it going.
Dana White has been closely involved in Bella's career for the past 4 years. He pushed her to go to college before fully committing to MMA, a decision that helped her become an NCAA wrestling champion. And now, he believes she's something special.
The Olympics, UFC Championship, Zuffa Boxing, and UFC BJJ. She wants a title in all of those organizations.
With elite wrestling, world-class Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and an undefeated record, Bella Mir could become a serious problem for anyone in women's MMA, especially Dakota Ditcheva. Could Bella be the fighter capable of ending Dakota's dominance and eventually breaking her record?
I'm the one that really pushed her to go to college and get a college education because she was ready to start fighting right out of high school. So, yeah.
She ended up also obviously wrestling, and she became an
Right.
NCAA champion.
Well, that was the goal too in college. You know, not just for her to get an education, but to break some college records and do. And then this girl would go to school, and she was wrestling, and then she'd come home on vacation. You know, you come home Thanksgiving and Christmas and shit, and she would enter these jiu-jitsu competitions and win them. You know, while she was only wrestling, not even doing jiu-jitsu. So she's special.
This is her story, and why Bella Mir may be one of the most dangerous prospects women's MMA has seen. Let's start with the champion. Dakota Ditcheva is the reigning PFL Women's Flyweight Champion, and as of January 2026, sits at number 1 in the PFL Flyweight rankings. She was born on July 25, 1998, in Sale, Greater Manchester, England, into a family steeped in combat sports. Her mother, Lisa Howarth, is a multiple-time world kickboxing champion, and that environment shaped Dakota from childhood, pulling her into kickboxing, Muay Thai, and eventually Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu long before she ever stepped into an MMA cage.
Plum and a right hand. Oh, another one. Big one. Dakota Ditcheva, right hand and a hand of fake. Another knockout for Dakota Ditcheva.
Before she made the switch to mixed martial arts, Ditcheva was already a decorated Muay Thai competitor. In 2016, she represented Great Britain at the IFMA World Championships in Jönköping, Sweden, and won gold in the female junior 57-kilogram division. She also picked up the ISKA Muay Thai British title that same year. Her professional Muay Thai record sits at 10 wins and 1 loss, with her only defeat coming by decision back in 2017.
Against defense with body shots.
Combination again, punching her way out of these clinches.
Inaba not able to match speed on the outside.
Crashing in again.
Oh, beautiful knee.
Oh, the clinch is really working for Ditcheva. She gets the turn under the knee, finds its way to the face of Sumiko Naiva, and an elbow from Dakota.
Inaba can't take a lot of those knees.
Her transition into professional MMA began in April 2021, and since then she has not lost a single fight. 16 bouts, 16 wins, 0 losses. 12 of those wins have come by knockout or technical knockout, 1 by submission and 3 by decision. That finishing rate is what separates her from most flyweights in the sport right now.
And Chelsea Hackett. Ditcheva makes the playoffs with a win of any kind.
Those knees are brutal.
Oh, nasty
Those knees
combination.
really hurt her.
And the body work, and that'll do it.
God.
Dakota Ditcheva with a quick 6.
You okay?
And clinches the #1 seed.
She signed with the Professional Fighters League in July 2022, and her run there has been dominant. She won the inaugural PFL Europe Women's Flyweight Tournament in 2023, finishing Malin Hermansen by submission, stopping Cornelia Holm by body shot knockout, and closing out Valentina Scatizzi on a doctor stoppage in the final.
And Dakota maintaining balance. And look at that. Question the gameness of Scatizzi.
Beautiful.
Look at this time down here.
Oh, nice right hand. Beautiful from the cross. Beautiful. Oh,
We might not see it.
I think the doctor's going to step in and stop this. I don't think she's going to be able to see it. Look at that eye.
Look at that eye. And
okay, so you're not happy with us to continue. Oh, that's really bad, guys.
That's the end of the fight.
In 2024, she ran through the PFL's Global Women's Flyweight Tournament, defeating Lisa Malden, Chelsea Hackett, and Jana Bishop, all by knockout or TKO, before finishing former UFC title challenger Tyla Santos in the final. That win earned her the $1 million prize, made her the youngest champion in PFL history, and the first British female MMA world champion.
The planet right now, fantastic strikers, veterans, future legends of the game here.
For sure.
Santos is in big trouble. She's in big trouble. Dakota Ditcheva to the body again for a championship.
She followed that with a unanimous decision win over Sumiko Inaba in July 2025, and most recently a unanimous decision victory over Denise Kiel-Holtz at PFL New York on July 31, 2026, a fight that had been delayed months earlier due to injury. Along the way, Ditcheva has picked up a long list of hardware, including ESPN's non-UFC Female Fighter of the Year, MMA Junkie's Female Fighter of the Year, and Combat Press's Female Fighter of the Year, all in 2024.
Home, very difficult to put away.
Oh!
Yeah, the power. Right. That'll do it. Dakota Ditcheva with the 3rd round finish.
Now let's turn over to the other side of this comparison. Bella Mir is younger, earlier in her career, and building her Ursum from a completely different foundation. She was born on January 1, 2003, in Las Vegas, Nevada, the daughter of former UFC heavyweight champion Frank Mir, where Ditcheva grew up around kickboxing and Muay Thai gyms. Bella grew up around one of the most recognizable heavyweight legacies in UFC history, training directly under her father from a young age. Her path to professional competition looked nothing like a typical combat sports upbringing either. At Centennial High School in Las Vegas, she started at linebacker on the boys' varsity football team, while also competing on the wrestling team, blending physicality most fighters never develop with technical grappling instincts. Before turning fully professional, UFC CEO Dana White personally advised her to attend college rather than rush into a career, and she took that advice, wrestling first at the University of Iowa before continuing her collegiate career elsewhere. That patience paid off. Bella became an NCAA Women's Wrestling National Champion at 145 pounds, a U.S. Open champion at 68 kilograms, and an IBJJF World Champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She's also undefeated at 2-0 in the UFC's Specialized Bache Invitational Series. On pure grappling pedigree alone, it's one of the most credentialed Ursums of any young prospect in the sport right now. Regardless of gender or weight class, her professional MMA career started early too. She made her debut in October 2020 at just 17 years old, and she currently sits at 4 wins and 0 losses, competing primarily at bantamweight. Her most recent win came in July 2025, a first-round submission finish over Stephanie Calderon at Fury FC. After that fight, she stepped away from competition for an extended stretch to keep developing her grappling before returning to action.
I feel like I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of opportunities outside of fight.
Dakota Ditcheva has finally broken her silence, and this time, she's sending a clear warning to PFL. The undefeated star made it clear that fighting is no longer her only source of success. She revealed that she has built multiple opportunities outside the cage through her business ventures and YouTube, where she has a huge and loyal fan following. According to Dakota, her platform outside of fighting has become incredibly valuable, giving her options beyond the sport.
You know, I was out, I was able to put my mind at other places and be able to move forward.
But what does this message really mean for PFL? Is Dakota warning the promotion that she doesn't have to rely on fighting alone? Is she putting pressure on PFL to value her more or even pay her more?
So I feel like I'm very open, very real. So
let's break down everything Dakota Ditcheva said and what her comments could mean for her future with PFL. Before we get into the business side of things, it's worth understanding where Dakota is coming from mentally, because it puts everything else she said into context.
I feel like being at the gym all the time, not going into this crazy depression that I've done before, was like what really kept me going. And I feel like I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of opportunities outside of fighting. Denise's style is very counter style. She's waiting all the time. So during the time that, you know, I was out, I was able to put my mind at other places and be able to move forward.
In a recent sit-down, she opened up about how training has been the thing keeping her grounded. She admitted that being in the gym consistently was what stopped her from spiraling into the kind of depression she says she's dealt with before. That's a heavy admission from someone who on the outside looks like she has it all figured out, an undefeated record, a growing brand, and a tournament title to her name. It's easy to look at a fighter's highlight reel and assume everything behind the scenes is just as polished. Dakota's comments remind us that's rarely the full story.
Talking to PFL's own Miss Dakota Ditcheva. Hello, Dakota, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you.
I'm just hydrating here. This is your water, Dakota?
Yes, I am a co-owner, not just an ambassador of this one. So thinking about the future, for me, like, this was the perfect thing to get involved in.
She also credited her time away from full-time competition as a chance to reset. Rather than sitting idle, she used that period to focus on other parts of her life and career, which she says allowed her to come back with a clearer head and a stronger sense of direction. Instead of treating time out of the cage as wasted time, she reframed it as an opportunity, something a lot of athletes struggle to do when they're used to defining themselves purely by competition results. There's also something worth noting in how she described her opponent's style during that same conversation, calling it a counter-heavy approach built around waiting for mistakes. It's a small detail, but it shows she wasn't just talking in vague, feel-good terms about her mental health. She was already thinking like a competitor, breaking down tape and looking ahead, even while explaining how she protected her headspace during time away from the sport. This context matters because it frames everything that comes next. Dakota isn't just talking business for the sake of leverage. She's talking about genuinely building a life that doesn't hinge entirely on winning inside the cage. And that foundation is exactly why her next comments about ownership and business hit differently than the usual "I've got stuff going on" outside fighting line fighters give in interviews.
What's one thing you wish fans knew about you outside of fighting?
Oh, I feel like the fans know everything. I do YouTube, so I feel like I'm very open, very real. So
they know everything about you?
Everything. They know what I want them to know.
Yeah.
I'm Dakota Ditcheva, and this is Fighters on Fighters. Okay,
Here's where things get interesting. Dakota didn't just say she has side projects, she made a point of clarifying her role in them. She specifically said she's a co-owner, not just an ambassador, of one of her business ventures, adding that when she thinks about her future, getting involved at that level was the perfect thing for her. That distinction is important. Ambassadors get paid to promote something. Owners build equity. Owners have skin in the game long after the cameras stop rolling. By emphasizing ownership, Dakota is signaling that her financial future isn't dependent on a single PFL paycheck or a single win bonus. She's diversifying, and she wants people to know it. Combine that with her YouTube channel, which she describes as a space where she's completely transparent with her audience, and you start to see the full picture. She said her fans know everything she wants them to know, a subtle but telling line. It's not that she's hiding anything necessarily, but she's controlling the narrative around her brand, on her terms, outside of PFL's promotional machine. Think about what that actually means logistically. A promotion typically controls the story around its fighters, the interviews, the hype packages, the social clips. When a fighter has their own channel with a loyal following, they don't need the promotion's media team to build their profile. They can post whenever they want, say what they want, and build a direct relationship with fans that doesn't disappear if they ever left the organization. That's a very different position than a fighter whose entire public presence lives inside PFL's official channels. And that's really the undercurrent of everything Dakota said. She wasn't dropping a name or a headline-grabbing statement. She was calmly laying out that her income, her audience, and her public image are no longer fully dependent on one company. For a promotion, That's worth paying attention to, because fighters who have nowhere else to go are easier to negotiate with than fighters who genuinely don't need the deal. So why does any of this matter to PFL specifically? Fighter pay and fighter leverage have been hot topics across combat sports for years. When a fighter builds a following and revenue streams independent of their promotion, it fundamentally changes the negotiating dynamic. A fighter who needs the promotion to eat is in a very different position than a fighter who has options. Dakota's comments read like a quiet but deliberate message. She's not desperate. She doesn't need PFL to validate her or fund her lifestyle. Her business ventures and her content platform give her the freedom to walk into contract conversations from a position of strength rather than dependency. This doesn't necessarily mean she's unhappy with PFL or planning to leave, but it does suggest she wants the promotion and the fans to understand that her value extends beyond her fight record. If PFL wants to keep featuring her as a centerpiece of their women's flyweight division, they may need to recognize that she brings more to the table than just wins. She brings an audience, a brand, and outside business interests that make her an attractive commodity regardless of what happens in the cage. Whether this becomes a real point of tension in future negotiations remains to be seen. But fighters rarely bring up ownership and independent income streams by accident in interviews. It's often a calculated move to shift perception before money conversations even start. It's also worth pointing out the timing. Dakota made these comments while she's undefeated, coming off a tournament win, and heading into another high-profile matchup. That's the exact moment a fighter has the most leverage before a loss, before an injury, while momentum and public interest are both at their peak. Smart fighters understand that leverage is temporary, and the best time to remind a promotion of your value is right when you have the most of it. There's also a broader pattern here worth mentioning. Across combat sports, we've seen more fighters in recent years lean into building personal brands, YouTube channels, and outside business ventures, specifically because it changes their negotiating position. Fighters who once had no choice but to accept whatever contract was offered are increasingly finding ways to build parallel income so they can walk away from a bad deal if they need to. Dakota's comments fit neatly into that larger shift happening across the sport. She's not creating a new blueprint, but she is clearly following it with intention. None of this business talk changes the fact that Dakota still has fights to win, and she made it clear she isn't lacking confidence heading into her next one. She predicted her upcoming fight wouldn't go past the second round, calling her shot with a submission finish. She also touched on comparisons to her opponent, noting the shared traits between them both being tall, rangy fighters who know how to control distance, while pointing out that she believes her own sharpness and finishing instincts set her apart. She was also candid about being underestimated throughout her career, saying she's used to it after years of training against tough competition, and that she's comfortable letting her skill speak in the cage, rather than in interviews. She described this next chapter as a return of a version of herself, with a new level of confidence, built from getting through difficult stretches in her career and personal life. That combination, quiet business confidence, paired with loud in-cage confidence, is what makes this moment for Dakota so notable. She's not just selling herself as a fighter anymore. She's selling herself as a brand, a business, and a competitor, all at once. And she seems fully aware of how those three things reinforce each other. So where does this leave things? Dakota Ditcheva isn't threatening to walk away from PFL, but she is making sure everyone knows she doesn't have to stay for the money alone. Between her ownership stake in outside ventures, her YouTube platform, and her undefeated run in the cage, she's built a position where PFL needs her just as much, if not more than she needs PFL. Whether this translates into a bigger contract, more marketing support, or simply more respect from the promotion remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, Dakota Ditcheva is done being treated as just another name on the roster. Let us know what you think in the comments. Is this a warning shot to PFL, or just a fighter being honest about her future? Either way, stay tuned, because this story is far from over.
It sounds awesome.
Fucks these girls up.
That's it.
Fucks these girls up. Like combinate. That's her.
Combination.
Say that name. Ditcheva. Ditcheva. I don't know. I'm probably butchering it. A lot of those names you can't really pronounce them the way you read them. Like that trips me up so hard at UFC weigh-ins. Like I have to write everything out phonetically. Just cut to like when she's she's tuning up this girl. And she tunes up all these girls. She's nasty, man. Look at that knee to the body. Like, and she's pretty.
Joe Rogan couldn't believe what he had just witnessed. After watching Dakota Ditcheva's devastating knockout, the UFC commentator made a statement that sent shockwaves through the MMA world. Rogan didn't just call her one of the most dangerous fighters on the planet, he suggested she could become the biggest threat the UFC has ever faced, even warning Dana White that this rising superstar could shake the very foundation of the promotion. But what made Dakota Ditcheva's performance so extraordinary? And why is everyone suddenly talking about her as the future of women's MMA?
Plum and a right hand. Oh, another one. Big one. Dakota Ditcheva, right hand and a hammer fake. Another knockout for Dakota Ditcheva.
Let's break down what happened, what Joe Rogan really said, and why this knockout has the entire fight world buzzing. And alongside him, UFC commentator Laura Sanko delivered her own bombshell. She called Ditcheva the violent Cinderella and told Dana White, in no uncertain terms, sign her now, or watch her tear your division apart from the outside.
That I am dying to see in the UFC, and that's Dakota Ditcheva. Yeah. Talk about the women's division needing a superstar, and talk about a perfectly packaged, talented, gorgeous, eloquent, respectful, good, like literally checks every single box, and she's right there, and she is a flyweight. And can you imagine the matchups that she could have in the flyweight division?
This is the story of the fighter two of MMA's biggest voices cannot stop talking about, and why the UFC ignoring her might be the biggest mistake in the history of women's mixed martial arts. Stick around, because this pressure on Dana White is only going to get louder. It happened on Joe Rogan's podcast during a conversation with comedian Shane Gillis about how badly untrained men underestimate female fighters. That's when Ditcheva's name came up, and Rogan couldn't hold back. Have you seen that really pretty girl that fights in the PFL? Rogan asked. Dakota Ditcheva. She's from England. In most of her fights, she wins by knockout. She's this Muay Thai specialist, but she's pretty.
Seen that really pretty girl that fights in the PFL? What's her name? Dakota Ditcheva. She's from England, but she is like, most of her fights win by knockout. She's this Muay Thai specialist, but she's pretty. And
Sounds awesome.
Fucks these girls up.
That's it.
Fucks these girls.
Then, watching her highlight reel play out in front of him, Rogan's tone shifted completely. She's real pretty, slim, slender, and she just destroys these girls, he said. She tunes up all these girls. She's nasty, man. If you saw her at a club, you'd say, wow, she looks really fit. Maybe she's a CrossFitter or something, and then she just destroys you.
Dakota Ditcheva is one of the most feminine people ever. She's beautiful. She's a gorgeous woman. She looks like a model. It has nothing to do with men beating each other up. It has nothing to do with brutishness. It has to do with high-level problem solving with dire physical consequences. But the early days were interesting because, like, you know, there was a lot of people disparaging women fighting, including Dana White. Yeah, some people get disturbed watching women get bloodied up. That's a big one for some folks. It feels different. Obviously, I'm a big fan of women fighting. But when I watch a big cut on a woman, it feels...
That's not a passing compliment. That's Joe Rogan, the man who has called every era of women's MMA since Ronda Rousey first broke into the mainstream, looking directly at Dakota Ditcheva's body of work and admitting she doesn't fit the mold. She breaks it entirely. Rogan went further, calling her approach inside the cage high-level problem-solving with dire physical consequences. That's the same language he reserves for the sport's most elite tacticians, not just knockout artists, but fighters who dismantle opponents with precision and technique.
To not get emotional when they get hit. It's a very bad way to react in a fight, to fight with emotions, because you expose yourself. You leave yourself open for counters. You